Daniel Foster adjusted his blazer and checked his watch for the third time. 39 years old, and he still got nervous before first dates. His colleague had insisted on setting him up with someone special. "Trust me," Rebecca had said. "She's perfect for you." The restaurant hummed with evening conversation. Daniel had chosen a quiet table in the corner, away from the crowd. He preferred places where you could actually hear someone speak, where connection mattered more than being seen. She arrived exactly on time. Daniel stood as she approached, and something in his chest tightened. She was beautiful in an understated way, her blonde hair falling in soft waves past her shoulders. She wore a simple cream blouse, nothing flashy. But it was her eyes that caught him, warm, familiar somehow. "Daniel?" she asked, smiling. "Yes, you must be Sophie." He pulled out her chair. "Thank you," she said, settling across from him. She studied his face carefully, and he had the strangest sensation of being examined. Not judged, examined. The waiter appeared, took their drink orders, and left them alone. "So," Daniel began, falling back on the usual script, "Rebecca tells me you work in education?" "I'm a high school English teacher," Sophie said. 10th and 11th grade. It's exhausting and wonderful." "That's a tough age," Daniel said. "I barely survived those years myself." "Most of us barely did," Sophie replied. Something flickered in her expression. "Tell me about your work. Rebecca said you're in finance?" "Investment management," Daniel confirmed. "I help people plan for retirement, save for their children's education. It's not as exciting as it sounds." "Do you enjoy it?" The question surprised him. Most people asked how much he made or whether the stock market was going up. No one asked if he enjoyed it. "Honestly, some days yes, some days no. I'm good at what I do, but I'm not sure it's what I'm meant to do." Daniel paused. "That probably sounds ungrateful." "It sounds honest," Sophie said gently. Their drinks arrived. Daniel noticed Sophie's hands trembled slightly as she lifted her glass. She was nervous, too. That made him feel better somehow. "Can I ask you something?" Sophie said after a moment. "Of course. You don't remember me, do you?" Daniel froze. He studied her face more carefully. The shape of her eyes, the curve of her smile, something tugged at his memory, but he couldn't place it. "I'm sorry," he said slowly. "Have we met before?" Sophie nodded. 22 years ago. Riverside High School. You were a senior, I was a sophomore. The memory hit him like cold water. Riverside High, senior year. He had been popular back then, dating the head cheerleader, playing varsity soccer. Life had felt simple, uncomplicated. But there had been a girl, a quiet sophomore who sat alone at lunch, reading books with worn covers. She had blonde hair she kept in a ponytail and always wore oversized sweaters. He remembered seeing her in the hallway once. Books scattered on the floor while other students walked past without helping. He had stopped, helped her pick them up. "Sophie Turner," Daniel said quietly. "You sat by the library window. You were always reading." Her eyes widened. "You do remember." "I remember helping you with your books one day," Daniel said. "Some guys had knocked them out of your hands. They were laughing." "Brad Mitchell and his friends," Sophie said, her voice tight. "They did that a lot, called me names, made my life miserable." She paused. "But you were different. You helped me, you asked if I was okay, and then you did something I never forgot." Daniel tried to remember. The details were fuzzy after so many years. "You sat with me at lunch," Sophie continued. "Just that once. The next day, you brought your tray over to my table by the window and asked if the seat was taken." The memory sharpened. He remembered now. His girlfriend had been furious. His friends had mocked him. But something about Sophie's quiet dignity had drawn him. She hadn't been dramatic or attention-seeking. She had just been kind. "We talked about books," Daniel said, the memory becoming clearer. "You were reading To Kill a Mockingbird. You said Atticus Finch was the kind of person you hoped to become." Sophie's eyes filled with tears. "You remember that?" "I remember thinking you were the most genuine person I'd met in that whole school," Daniel admitted. "Everyone else was performing, playing roles. But you were just yourself. You never sat with me again," Sophie said softly. "After that one lunch, you went back to your friends, your girlfriend, your life." Guilt washed over Daniel. "I'm sorry. I was a coward. My girlfriend gave me an ultimatum, her or the weird girl by the window. I chose the easy path. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. Sophie said quickly. I'm telling you because that one lunch changed my life. Daniel looked at her in confusion. I was planning to drop out, Sophie explained. My home life was terrible. My father was an alcoholic. My mother worked 3 jobs. School was torture between the bullying and the loneliness. I had decided that day would be my last. Daniel's heart stopped. But then you sat with me, Sophie continued. You talked to me like I mattered, like I was worth knowing. You asked about my favorite books. You told me about your dreams to travel. For 1 hour, I felt seen. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I went home that night and decided to stay, to finish high school, to prove that person you saw in me was real. Sophie, Daniel breathed. I became a teacher because of you, she said. Because I wanted to be that person for someone else. The one who notices the lonely kid. Who sits with them. Who makes them feel worth something. Daniel reached across the table and took her hand. I had no idea. How could you? Sophie said. You were just being kind. You had no way of knowing what it meant to me. They sat in silence. For a moment. The restaurant noise faded into background. Daniel felt like the world had narrowed to just the two of them. What happened after high school? He asked gently. I graduated, got a scholarship to State University, worked my way through college, got my teaching degree, built a life I'm proud of. Sophie smiled through her tears. I never forgot you, though. The boy who stopped to help, who sat with me when no one else would. I'm not that person anymore, Daniel said quietly. I grew up, made mistakes, got engaged to the wrong woman, built a career I'm not passionate about. I'm not the hero you remember. I don't need you to be a hero, Sophie said. I just needed you to know that kindness matters. Even small acts, even brief moments. They ripple out in ways we never see. Their food arrived, but neither moved to eat. They kept talking. Sophie told him about her students, about the girl she'd helped just last week who reminded her of herself. Daniel told her about feeling lost, about wondering if there was more to life than quarterly earnings reports. What would you do? Daniel asked. If you could start over. I wouldn't start over, Sophie said firmly. Every hard thing made me who I am. But I would tell my younger self that the pain passes, that kindness is never wasted, that one person noticing you can change everything. As the evening wore on, Daniel realized something profound was happening. This wasn't just a blind date. It was a reckoning, a chance to see how his actions had mattered when he thought they hadn't. Can I be honest? Daniel asked as they shared dessert. Please. When Rebecca set up this date, I almost canceled. I've been on so many first dates that go nowhere. Women who want my wallet or my status. I'm tired of performing. He looked directly at her. But sitting here with you, I feel like I can breathe, like I can be myself. That's because you already know the worst version of me, Sophie said with a slight smile. The lonely sophomore with the second-hand clothes and the broken family. You've already seen me at my lowest. There's nothing to hide. You were never at your lowest, Daniel corrected. You were surviving. That takes strength most people never develop. They talked until the restaurant began closing. The staff politely cleared tables around them. Finally, Daniel paid the bill and they walked outside into the cool evening air. I'd like to see you again, Daniel said. If you're interested. Sophie looked up at him. Are you sure? I'm not who you remember. I'm not that quiet girl anymore. I have opinions. I'm stubborn. I correct people's grammar without meaning to. I'm counting on it, Daniel said. They saw each other the next weekend, and the weekend after. Daniel learned that Sophie was funnier than he expected, with a dry wit that caught him off guard. Sophie discovered that Daniel was more thoughtful than his high school self, someone who had grown through his mistakes. 3 months in, Daniel took her back to Riverside High. They stood outside the building, now renovated but still recognizable. There's the library window, Sophie said softly, pointing. And there's where I helped you pick up your books, Daniel replied. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd been braver back then? Sophie asked. If you'd kept sitting with me. Daniel considered it. Honestly, I think I needed those 22 years. I needed to fail, to learn, to become someone worthy of you now. You were always worthy, Sophie said. You just didn't know it yet. A year later, Daniel proposed. Not in a restaurant or public place, but outside that library window at their old high school, where their story had really begun. 23 years ago, I made a choice, Daniel said, down on one knee. I chose the easy path, the safe path, and I regret it. But sometimes the universe gives us second chances. Sophie Turner, will you let me spend the rest of my life being the person you always believed I could be? She said yes. At their wedding, Daniel's best man told the story of a boy who helped a girl pick up her books. How he sat with her at lunch, how he didn't know he was saving a life. But Sophie corrected him gently. He didn't save me, he saw me. Sometimes that's all someone needs. To be seen, to be worth someone's time. The businessman in the blazer and the teacher in the cream blouse found something neither expected. Not a do-over, not a fairy tale rescue, but a second chance at a connection that had mattered all along. Sometimes the kindest thing we do is also the most important. We just don't know it until years later, when a blind date turns into a mirror, showing us who we were and who we've become. And sometimes the person we needed to find was searching for us all along. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. Comment about a time someone's small kindness changed your life. We never know how our actions ripple forward, touching lives in ways we never imagine.